still weird seeing that I have an intro video for the show. I still have not gotten used to that going on whatever we're now 4 months of my own show. But anyway, hey everyone, welcome to Drive Time with Matty Ice. I'm here along with, of course, the Scooter is back for another day. How you doing, sir?
Hi, great to be here. Awesome, thank you.
Great to be here. Well, we're going to start off with a little somber news. Was working this morning, and I got a thing through my Facebook Messenger for my wife, and it was about Malcolm Jamal Warner passing away, which, needless to say, was a shocking one. Um, Growing up on the Cosby Show, this one hurts. This one hurts a lot. He, played, of course, Theo Huxtable on the Cosby Show, which was on from. Hold on, I got my years here right here, and I hit the wrong button. But see that show was from 84 to 92, so that's like right when I was going through the high school years, graduate high school in 90. So like basically, and it's kind of, the Cosby Show is so hard because it was a great American show, but it's kind of lost a little bit due to what's going on with Bill Cosby over the years. But there's a lot of great TV in that show, and watching the growth of Theo Huxtable as a character in that show was always amazingly well done in my view. And so to have him unfortunately pass, he passed in a swimming accident off the coast of Costa Rica. He just celebrated his 55th birthday. He, I got caught up in a riptide and got taken out to sea. And by the time they got him back to shore, he was unfortunately already gone from the reports I've seen. But along with the Cosby Show, he was in a lot of different things. Did have his own little show for a little bit, Malcolm and Eddie. Did also have a couple different episodes that he played in, both in film and on TV. Most of what he's known for, of course, is through TV. The Cosby Show, of course, the big one he did was on Saturday Night Live once as a host as well with Run DMC. It's on Sesame Street a couple times. Played, of course, a couple episodes in A Different World, which was the spinoff for the Cosby Show. Also in a couple episodes of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. It was in the show Here and Now for 2 years. Also the Magic School Bus as a voiceover for 3 years. And then the Malcolm and Eddie, which I already mentioned and stuff too. And then it was also in Jeremiah, a couple episodes of Dexter here and there. So, he did do a lot even in his adult life. But, I think most people, at least anyone my age, knows him as Theo Huxtable. So this one definitely hurts. Scooter, any thoughts on the unfortunate, shocking passing of Malcolm Jamal Warner?
Yeah, you never, it always hits you because 56, and we haven't heard from him in a little bit, but like everything we know, he was always healthy and everything. And then, in that kind of way, just a sad, tragic accident. And those things happen, unfortunately. We see it all the time. But like we knew, like you said, him from his childhood, our childhood. We got to watch the Cosby Show all the time. It's one of those great shows. We were the young men, and we were the boys, and we were watching Theo grow up as we were growing up at that same time, like you said. I do want to point one movie. It was an HBO made-for-TV movie back in '95 called The Tuskegee Airmen that he starred in with Lawrence Fishburne, Cuba Gooding Jr., Andre Braugher, Courtney B. Vance, John Lithgow, and Shooter McGavin, Christopher McDonald. They were all in it, and that's a really good movie. I love World War II movies, and the Tuskegee Airmen they're great heroes of the United States, and they put themselves out there just like everyone else, and they were true heroes. And he did a great part in it, where he was a young, college-educated black man in the early 40s at that time, and he enlisted just like the other guys did. So very good movie. Recommend it.
It's funny that you said, because I actually had meant to mention that, and of course, going through the list, I forgot it, and so there you are. Like, we didn't even rehearse that, and you pulled off the one that I forgot to mention. So that's teamwork right there, if I've ever seen it. So it is definitely a great movie. I do remember it, and then I think my one Cosby scene, and he had a lot of great ones, but the one that I always remember is, they always did the yearly song for his dad's and mom's anniversary, and it's the one where, all the ladies are down singing, and he's coming down the stairs, and they're doing the dance, and he's doing the ad lib of the words. It's just so great. And when he had the shirt that he loved, and then his sister, ruined it for him, like so many great lines from the Cosby Show with him. So, and Sideline Junkies checking in, Tuskegee Airmen was a fantastic movie. So everyone is in agreement with you on that. So did unfortunately have to start the show with the rest in peace, which is kind of the tradition of the Sideline Junkie shows. When something like this comes up, we usually start with that, so then we can just kind of get it out of the way. So this one though definitely hurt. There's no other way to put it other than that. So we're going to get into a topic that, it's kind of funny. I start doing my kind of looking at what's going on Saturday to start getting stuff ready for the show. And I was kind of looking around like, man, okay, yeah, we got a little bit of baseball going on. The pennant races are starting to heat up, but we're still a good 2 months away from that getting good. We're still 2 weeks away from, from the trade deadline, even in baseball. And okay, yeah, there's WNBA All-Star game, but that's only going to go so far. And, so what are we going to have to talk about this week? And then this happens yesterday. So we'll just get right into it. Two different tweets that the President of the United States posted. And as we get into this, and I think, what's good about having Scooter on for this is, for those of you who don't know, I always try to keep politics out of the show, but this is one of those rare times where politics does interact with us in this instance. And Scott and I don't always see eye to eye on political stuff, but whenever we do have discussions, they are just that. They're discussions between us, whether it be through Facebook. We never have gotten personal with each other. We never start yelling and screaming at each other. We accept each other's point of view, and sometimes we end up, not necessarily changing the other person's mind, but looking at things differently. And that's what I want this topic on this show to do today. So if you're watching and you're interested in this topic, please send your comments. Your comments will help. But what we are going to have is, you're going to see this happen with Scooter and I. We're going to have almost kind of like a point, maybe counterpoint type discussion. Who knows? We may even end up agreeing. We have not rehearsed what we're going to say to each other on this. But there will be, Scott will talk, I will listen. And then when I talk, Scott's going to listen. Unlike any other show, when you see these discussions happen on MSNBC or Fox News or CNN, where the whole goal is just to talk over each other, and
well,
no
I
one
can't hear what you're saying. What are you saying?
Right, exactly. Like Scooter and I are not going to do that. Okay, we're going to talk about it. We're going to bring up the subject, and then we're going to see what each other's thoughts on it are, and we'll go from there. And that's how I want the comments to work too. So I will read everyone's comments if they put comments in on this subject that want to have comments on it. As long as you don't get personal. So, don't call anyone an idiot. Probably would prefer if you don't call the president an idiot, and we'll go from there. So Scott says, you and Scott don't see eye to eye on of politics. Shocker. Right. So, this is what we're talking about. Like, see, and I'm glad that we're kind of starting off with a little bit of fun. He said he needs to stay out of sports, leave the Commanders alone. So so we're getting into it already. So the first tweet was the first one, which is the Washington whatevers, which I do have to give Trump credit. That's a little bit, that I'll give him credit. That was kind of a little, I did chuckle when I read that. Okay. So I'll give him that. Should immediately change the name back to the Washington Redskins football team. There's a big clamoring for this. Likewise, the Cleveland Indians, one of the 6 original baseball teams with a storied past, are great Indian people in massive numbers, want this to happen, blah, 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 blah. So on the first part, and I'm going to take this from the Cleveland side of this first, because I think his effect on the Cleveland side is far less than the effect on the Washington side, okay? But on the first one, I do have to, of course, first point out that what he says about the Cleveland team is actually inaccurate. They were not one of the original 6. The American League actually had 8 original teams. They started in 1901, and the first Cleveland team that played in the American League was not the Indians. They were actually nicknamed the Cleveland Blues, and then they became the Cleveland Naps over Nap LaJoy. And then in 1915, they had a name the team contest, and that is when they took the name the Indians. So that was not their original nickname, first and foremost. And they actually first started off in the National League in the late 1800s as the Cleveland Spiders. So he's way off on the Cleveland talk there in the first part of that. So that's kind of the first thing I do want to bring out. It's just not accurate there at all. Then we get to, he sees, and of course, both teams immediately come out with a statement, like the president of Cleveland Guardians said, we're not going back like this. We took 4 years to build this. We're not going back at this point in time. And I think Washington's, head of operations kind of all said the same thing there too. But it does immediately start getting people to tweeting. The Never Cleveland Guardians, that they start immediately coming out on this. And with that, he does the second tweet, which this is the part that I do want to get into later about, can he have an effect on the city or not? But then he does have another thing here dealing with the Cleveland baseball team, and he's, again, not correct. The Dolan family does own the Cleveland Guardians, but it's mostly run by Matt's brother. Matt Dolan, he is correct. He did run for different things in the Ohio Senate twice and a couple other spots, and did lose all 3. but he does not actually own the Cleveland baseball team. His brother does. He has had nothing to do with the day-to-day operations of the Cleveland baseball team. So, and I'm not even going to acknowledge the last part of it because it annoys me. So, Scooter, let's start with this part, and I'll ask this to you, and let's go from there. Why do you think that he posted this yesterday?
I have no idea, but hey, it gets attention to the Redskins, right? But anytime he says something, he knows that it's going to just be amplified a million times, and then probably a million more times. But I don't know if it has anything to do with the holdup that's going on with the possible holdup with the DC City Council, their vote. Maybe he's trying to cause attention to this thing. Well, I think it's obvious we know where he stands, what he wants the name to be called. So he's full in on the Redskins name.
Okay.
And, that probably gets a lot of people interested. I'm not saying whether it's, positive or negative, but it gets a lot of people interested.
All right. So can I run my idea from you? And and this is the non-sports side of this, okay? And we're not going to get into too much of the non-sports side of it, but there's been a certain list that has been that people, I think, on both sides have wanted to come out, good grief, not for just 4 years, but forever, which is the Epstein list. And he's been getting more and more push from his own party and from those about this list being released. And whether he has it or not, who knows? There's the whole thing about, and that, like I said, we're going to leave that part of it out of it because that's not for this show, whether or not who has the list and who has the ability to get the list or not. But his base has been clamoring for this list even to come out. And there's been more and more pressure about this. And to me, this feels like the old political, let's get them trying to talk about something else. And what other way to get his base going than mentioning the words woke, because he always loves to talk about these woke subjects. And the name change, I think, is just that. So to me, I think it's just a political smokescreen to try to get people talking about something other than a certain list that he may or may not be on. And at this point in time, I don't even care if he is on it, because to me, that list is not a right or left issue. That list is all about anyone that's on that list. They're asked, and they did something to a minor girl, they should be prosecuted. I don't care if they got an R by their name. I don't care if they got a D by their name. I don't care if they got an I by their name. I don't care if there's nothing by their name. Whoever is on there, I think should be prosecuted. And I honestly think that this is what that was. And I'll give you a chance to see if you agree, and if you don't agree, why.
I mean, it would make sense where that could come into play because it's all politics. So, something's going on that might be negative. You're going to try to, turn the attention a little bit. And I get that part too. I think he's just it's one of these tweets that he does this thing. He does have some agenda, of course, which everyone has an agenda when they do this kind of thing.
Right.
I think if you want to go to that Epstein list thing, you could say that they put themselves in this position, the White House that is, because they talked it up a few months ago, like, ooh, we're going to get this list out. And then like, oh, it's no big deal. It's like, well, you kind of like already rolled it out. You can't roll it back in. So, I mean, that's right. Like you got it. So, we'll see where that goes. I mean, they should obviously just get it out there. They should have done that 2 weeks ago. But, I mean,
you and I are in agreement on that.
I can see that this is playing into it a little bit, but I think it's deeper. Like it has to do with the vote that's coming up. He likes the ownership of the Redskins. He seems to have a okay relationship with the mayor right now. That seems to be okay. So I think he's trying to kind of put his fingerprints more on this thing. Like this whole deal is his, plus you're going to change the name. Now, it could be that he could be pushing this whole Redskin, and basically go back to ownership and go, listen, how about you just put that logo back on the helmet like you guys said you were going to do?
Okay.
And then we'll call even. You never know.
A few comments on that. Sideline Junkie said it's sleight of hand. And they also said and he is using woke way wrong and has been for years. Well, that I'm probably in agreement with on too as well. So so I do want, so now we kind of laid out everything on there. I kind of want to go at this from the Cleveland side of it, and then we'll go at it from the Washington side of it. Because to be honest with you, I think the Washington side of it is where maybe this has more room for him to do something with. The Cleveland side, it really doesn't. He doesn't own the team. B, he has no say in what happens in Cleveland. Three, I think I just did A, B, three, but whatever, you know what I mean. He has no real ability to affect the Cleveland situation. And the only thing, part of me that for him saying this with Cleveland is, I really feel like, 4 years now ago is when this happened. And finally here in Cleveland, other than, look, every post that the Guardians put, there are a few morons that do the same thing. It's, oh, they're not my team. Go Tribe, go Indians. Like, I'm not going to root for you. And it's like, okay, well, you care enough to follow the team based on your comment. So you clearly care. It has not affected the Cleveland sales at all. The merchandise is higher the last 4 years with the Guardians. Now, granted, some of that's because people are buying new merch, and they have to buy new merch if you want to stay in it. Like my wife and I, we made the decision. We weren't going to wear anything Indians once they changed the name. That was just us. That was an us decision. And as I go to games, in which I attend anywhere from 5 to 20 games a year, depending on the year. We see more and more people in Guardian stuff and less people in Indian stuff. And if someone's wearing Indians thing at the game, I don't care. Like, it doesn't really bother me if they're wearing Indian stuff. And if someone yells a Go Tribe, like, okay, I get it. I'm fine with it. Like, to me, all I care about is the name on front still saying Cleveland. As long as the name on front says Cleveland, I don't care what the hell. As long as they're playing games at the corner of Carnegie in Ontario, I'm good, right? Like, that's all I care about. Now, what I'd love to see is win a damn World Series at one point in time, but it's not going to change anything. And the only thing for me that does is, I think finally, it's like, when you kick a bee's nest and you got the bees all stirred up and then finally they calm down. Well, I think that's where we were in the city of Cleveland with the whole name change thing. I think it had finally calmed down. And all that this did is basically kick the goddamn bee's nest again. And now all these people that had kind of finally maybe not gone away, but they had just shut the hell up, are now back out. Oh, see, they're going to change the name. It's going to be Cleveland Indians again. Here it comes. And even the politicians are chiming in on it, and it's all, and it's the usual. It's Jim Jordan, Bernie Moreno, who would not be in office if it wasn't for Trump, who are now basically kissing Trump's ass, saying, yeah, we need to change the name back. It's not going back. It just isn't. It just isn't going back. So that's the Cleveland side of it, Scooter, and that's my take on it. Do you have any thoughts that you want to add on it?
Well, I think the Cleveland side, I think he was using that as an example. Like, here's another one. Change the name because of Native American stuff. And so I think he was using them, and he obviously has some issues with the Dolans.
Right.
That's obvious. But,
and they have run, and Matt Dolan has specifically run against a Trump appointee.
Yeah, and I don't,
and he lost. He lost to J.D. Vance, and then he also lost to Bernie Moreno on the Republican side of it in the primaries. To be fair.
Yeah, and no, that's exactly right. And I obviously, like, he's just, that's sort of like, I'm going to throw in the Dolans anyways. I'm going to kick them in the ass too. That's one of those things going on there. But I think, like, with Washington, I don't know if the name will get you. Like, I'm wearing my stuff. I got my Commander stuff. I got all that stuff. There's the same thing. Like, it's not my team. You get all that stuff too. This kind of could push people over into. I mean, I don't know, because it's a politician. It's the president, and like, half the country doesn't like the guy. Half the country does like the guy. So.
Right.
I don't know if you're changing anything. However, he could have a point when there are a few kind of mechanisms, if you will, that the president can do regarding this RFK site. However,
right, and I do want to get into that, so I'm going to have you pin that thought for a second because I do want to get into that part of this next, because I think that's the most interesting part of this. I do want to get through a couple comments here though real quick. Joni Evans says he has no authority here, and Joni also adds, Gen Fed land was signed over to DC. He can't make them change the derogatory racist name. So that's kind of a great leading point into this next part of it, because that is basically the whole second post that he had on his True Social about that part of it is so. And I'll be honest, I don't know. I haven't really been following too closely on this on the land at RFK. I know some of it was under through the National Park Service basically, and I don't know if that has or has not been signed over yet. Joni seems to suggest that it has. Do you have any insight on that, Scooter, as far as where that is, and could he in fact hold up that deal like he seems to suggest that he can?
So I think that the whole deal is done for like 99 years. It's like a 100-year lease. There's 99 left because 99 and 9 months, something like that.
Right.
There is by executive order, he could possibly cancel the federal lease, which within 2 seconds of him signing the executive order, there'd be about 14 lawsuits going on.
Right.
So then, of course, that would hold that up. There are 2 other ways. Okay, so there's something called the National Capital Planning Commission. The president appoints the board members, and what the National Capital Planning Commission does is they cast the votes on DC construction projects. So everything that gets built that's big, they have to vote on it, that they're going to follow through. I mean, if there's people that know more about that, please chime in, of course.
Yes.
And then there's also something called the Commission of Fine Arts, which, again, it's another one of these commissions which the president appoints the board members. And what the Commission of Fine Arts does is they review designs of all DC construction and they approve or deny it. So there's that.
Would that be so like if whenever the drawings for the stadium come up, that then they could technically decline the stadium part of it? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, that's what I would imagine. I'm not so familiar with these 2 commissions, but they are there, and those are ways around. Those are ways that in which Trump can put his fingerprints on the thing.
Gotcha. Joni says 99-year lease has been signed over, was signed January 5th. But I think that's the whole point of it too. It's like, yes, that's been signed over, but he could do an executive order, which again, he loves to do. So, and then that's the whole part of it is like you said too, I 100% agree with you that if he does do something like that, the attorneys would immediately file a lawsuit and it'll get into the court. So what do you think the end game is on this for him on the Washington side? Does he just want to be able to do another thing that he likes to do where he's then able to take credit for this happening now? I've talked with every side and we're going to allow this, so that way he can post something like that. Do you think that's his ultimate play here? Or does he really care what the name of the Washington football team is?
Well, I think he cares that the name was the Redskins. I think that's obvious to me anyways. But yeah, of course he wants to put his finger. It's the greatest. It's going to be the greatest thing ever. It's going to be the greatest construction thing ever if I can do this. And when it gets, if it gets done, it's like, it was all because of me. Of course, we're going to hear that. So you just got to sort of roll with those punches. But remember with that executive order, though, if there is an executive order, I mean, it could be completely not constitutional and get knocked down in the courts all the way up to the Supreme Court.
Right.
I'm not, anything that's an executive order that could happen to, or it could go all the way up to the Supreme Court and they agree with the White House. But here's the thing: the longer that takes, the longer like that would be that would cause construction halting
issues. And then you got to play that much longer. That team has to play at FedEx, and nobody should have to play at FedEx.
And Josh Harris, he wants this he wants to be in at 2030.
Right.
And
I hope it happens for them like that.
Yeah. And so I mean, there's give and take, this and that. So I mean, we'll see what happens with on that end, on the parts that he could do it. But I think that's the only way that he could do it. There's no other way.
And what is interesting, too, about all this, if you recall back in 2013, when the name change was first being discussed, he exactly said that the president should not have any influence on the name change because there's more important things to worry about. So when this whole name change thing happened, he kind of stood off of it. But now all of a sudden, now he wants to have a say in it, which I also find to be very interesting, too. A couple really good points in here too. Joni says, try to take credit for it. I think that's the route that he's going to take. I'm going to follow up here. Joni said, no, he doesn't. Oh, Sarah, he's still calling them Indians. So yes. So This is a great question. You have to hold on. Let me get the first part. There it is. I think the bigger question is if he actually cares about the Native American population. I don't think he does. I think he could care less.
I think
So
what we're seeing a little discussion here between the ladies we have on is
hold
about
on. Breaking news. Breaking news. I'm sorry. I just have to show this for my little soon-to-be grandson. I'm going to show this on TV. Look at this little adorable shirt. It's a hot dog shirt for the okay. Sorry. This is a serious discussion we're having here, but my wife just came in and showed that to me, and damn it, it's cute. So,
even when it comes to Native Americans in general, like you were bringing up whether he cares about, yeah, probably a little bit, but is that there is a point here going on is when do the Chiefs have to change the name? When do the Braves have to change the name? When do the Blackhawks have to change the name? Now, is that going to stop now? Or are they like, oh, it's only Chiefs. It's not talking about this or that, or it's Braves. Anyone could be Brave. Blackhawks with the guy.
And I think that's the point here Sarah brings up. You have to think if he goes after the Blackhawks next, despite the fact their name is after a little war hero. And that is true.
His name after a man.
Right, and exactly. So I think there are look, there's still the Illinois Fighting Illini that have kept their name. You still have the Florida State Seminoles, and some of these teams I think have built something with that local tribe. Not the North Dakota Fighting Sioux had that, but they did change their name. So I think it is just a question of and that's an argument that we hear a lot of. Well, what about these teams? What about these teams? Personally, I wouldn't be upset if I don't even really necessarily mind the Braves and Chiefs quite as much. I'd love to see the Tomahawk Chalk go away. I think that is the part that gets degrading. Like that to me is the part that I have the biggest problem with between the Braves and Chiefs. I think you could say, well, the chief is the leader of an Indian tribe, and that could maybe be taken as an okay thing to have a team name after a leader like that. I just could do without the Tomahawk Chop, to be honestly, and that would be the part of it to me that I think that definitely could go away. Joni says no, he doesn't. Sarah's still calling them the Indians. Oops. Chip says, because I was talking to my wife, Chip saying hi to my wife, which is always nice. I appreciate that. Sideline Junkies, this Redskin name change argument has been going around on since the 70s. And same thing with Cleveland, right? It's, when before it happened, like every opening day, there would be Indian groups. And the whole argument that they make is there are Indian groups that want the names changed back. And I'm sure there are, right? I'm sure there's both sides of this argument where there are people that want the name change and there are people that want it to go back. And
we can really just blame the Red Sox, okay?
They were the first one, right?
It's true, the Red Sox, because the Redskins were the Boston Braves at Brave Stadium for the baseball team, and then they lost a whole bunch of money. George Preston Marshall, they moved him over to Fenway Park for the Red Sox, so he wanted to keep the native Indian look, and so instead of being, the Braves, he goes, oh, Red Sox, Redskins, blam, there we go.
Yep, agreed.
So blame Boston.
Yep, and Joni puts in Harris needs to put more at the bill as taxpayers are paying $1 billion to get this done. I feel your pain, Joni. We're not paying $1 billion here in Cleveland, but we are paying $400 million for the Cleveland Browns Brook Park Stadium. So we could argue that part of it too all day long about what these billionaires get paid through the city governments. That's probably an argument for a whole another day. She also puts in here, and I'm sorry, I might have lost track where we're at here. She put those are tribe names, which I'm in agreement with you on that. Those aren't derogatory, and I think that is the distinction, right, between the two. And look, the Cleveland Indians, the Chief Wahoo was, to some people racist looking, and I was one that kind of was in agreement, and that's why even before they changed the names, they did kind of put Chief Wahoo officially to bed in that situation. Did I get through them all? Oh, Sarah's kind of making it funny here. Would you want it taken away for Florida State too? Because be careful with Paul. Ha ha ha. Could be.
They made the agreement though with the Seminole tribe.
Right, but I think I was talking about the Tomahawk Chop, because I do think they do still do the Tomahawk Chop at Florida State too. Okay. So I think they do something. I think they do the war chant or something, and that could be a war chant. Which
maybe you're just thinking of the Gators.
Well, the Gator Chomp. Yeah, we remember the Gator Chomp for sure. Yeah, so. Let's say Joni says, the chop is going to be tough to stop fans. When you know better, we got to do better. I agree, Joni. I think that's a great way to look at it. Ben says, JoJo, the team is paying $2.7 billion. Joni comments back to that. Wow. Sideline Junkies, the Tomahawk Chop came from Florida State to Atlanta because of Dion, if I'm not mistaken. That could be, but for some reason, I think I remember the Tomahawk Chop going on in Atlanta before then, but I don't know where it started. Maybe it was from Dion going over there. It could be. I could buy that, but for some reason, my brain has memories of it before Dion got there. Like
Dionne Warwick went to the University of Hartford. Okay, Dion, the real Dion.
All right, hold on now. I wasn't ready for that.
Yep.
Give me a second here. Hold on, let me edit it first. This is breaking news here, so we got to get that. There we go. There we go. Now we're ready. All right. See, we got everything going on here. We got the Hartford counter going on. We got all this stuff going on here.
So
let me make sure.
Another thing we didn't mention, like high schools,
right?
About their names in high schools. There are scores of Native American high schools with the name Redskins, with the exact Washington Redskin logo as well.
Really?
There is that too, and there's something to be said about that. You know, if they're going to be using that, that's a
yeah. Be curious.
Means that they at least certain reservation areas are okay with it.
Agree, and yeah, I think it's I mean, some of this could be almost a case-by-case basis, and that's why I think is the case, actually. Like the Florida State Seminoles, that's a tribe name. The tribe is kind of given the permission for it. Same thing with the Fine Line. And I think in those situations, if the tribe is fine with it, I'm good with it. If you got anybody, though, outside and it's not like it's just the general Indian Redskins, I think that's too vague and it's too different, and that's where you get into the trouble that these teams end up getting to, and why they made the decision to change the names. Whether you agree with it or not, I think that's what it basically comes down to. Doesn't mean that they're woke, in my view. I don't think it has anything to do with that. I think it's just being considerate to all and trying to be an inclusive society to all. And I guess if you think that's woke, then maybe that is the issue, I guess. Could have been with Dr. Jones, though. Oh, hold on. I didn't read the first part of it. This is, and Ban, I don't know if you heard us play it, but we did the Tomahawk and we were just called the Comets. Yeah, see, that I don't think I remember that, sir. It's probably good things. I probably would have been ticked off if I would have heard it, but that was under a different person then. That was not a great person. So taxpayers are paying $1 billion for the lots, et cetera, so he needs more incentives. Okay, well, that could also be part of it here too. Says yes, high schools are out of control. Well, yeah, they're out of control in a lot of ways too. So all right, well, I think we've done a pretty good job, and again, Scott, that's why I appreciate you, because I think you're right. I think on this one, I think we're kind of on the same line on this one. But it's important, and I appreciate everyone's comments. Joni, Sarah, Sideline Junkies, Chip, this is important stuff. We need to get back to this as a society. We need to get back to having conversations about stuff that we may not agree on and trying to find common ground. I think it's something that both sides of the political fence sometimes do, where they try to tear apart instead of finding stuff to put together. So I do appreciate everybody's comments on it. We'll see where this goes. I think it's going to go further on the Washington side than it is on the Cleveland side. Any other comments on it, Scooter?
Yeah, I just want to make one more comment regarding. So Josh Harris, a few months ago, he was interviewed by Brett Baer of the Fox News Network, and he said, "No, we're moving on. We got the commander's name. It's it's really rolling now." And so we have no plans to change it. And the first thing I thought of when they re-aired that interview on all sorts of episodes was, you can put it in all caps. We are not changing the name. Never.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be shocked at this point in time if they change it, if they go back. Either team, honestly, I just don't see it honestly happening. I don't see a reason for it. And again, it's.
I think we would all be good. Kevin Sheehan, he's a DC local sports guy. He's really good too. But Kevin Sheehan kind of has my idea that I made 5 years ago when this whole thing said. I said they should be the Washington Football Club. They can take the Redskin logo, smack that right up there, and still keep everything. And you can call them whatever the heck you want to, except they are the Washington Football Club. And they surprisingly went to the football team.
Right.
And but Kevin Sheehan's talking about it again. It's like, this takes care of the whole problem. And he said almost verbatim what I said. You can call the team the Skins. You can call them the Redskins. You can call them whatever you want to. But they're only the Washington football team.
I always liked. I thought it was kind of unique. I actually kind of liked it. The
Yeah.
football
Yeah.
team. I thought it was at least kind of different. At least. Chip, the challenge to this is ironically driving to DC right now is so hard to keep chatting, but who is really to decide what's offensive, and it's not everybody's going to have a personal opinion. I think the one thing we haven't talked about is the sponsor, and that part of the reason the Redskins were gone because of the sponsor. Yeah, I mean, sponsorship does play a role in it, right? These teams want the sponsorship money, and I agree with you too. Like, what is offensive to one person may not be offensive to another person. I think where it gets hard though is if you're talking about a term that is for every type of, for a whole entire indigenous community that could find offensive, then that's when you got to kind of, go a different direction, which I think ultimately is what Washington did with changing the name. I think just too many people felt it that way, and not that majority rules sometimes, but these owners ultimately make that decision. And I think that's where the Redskins and Indians probably had seen their day, and the time was overdue. And look, I don't have any problems with what Cleveland changed their name to. I've gotten used to Guardians. It's over the Guardians, which is they are on the bridge that is literally 2 blocks away from the stadium, so you can actually see these Guardians on the bridge right there as you go into the stadium from the north side. So it's all, that's the reason behind that, how they came up with the Guardians. So all good stuff on it. I do again appreciate everyone's comments on it. I knew it'd be a good hot topic to bring up, and again, I appreciate everyone's thoughts on it. There was a little bit of actual sports stuff this weekend too. I'm going to give this one over to Scooter because this is near and dear to his heart. Danny Hamlin did win a race in Dover, Delaware, but this was special for a lot more reasons, Scooter, and I'll let you get into that.
Yeah, so actually, Denny Hamlin, that's his second Dover win in a row, 2 years straight. He's won he's the winner of the Monster Mile. He gets Miles, the monster, as the trophy, which is awesome. But Dover is an amazing place. I didn't get to the race, unfortunately. My schedule conflict made me have to work. But the interesting thing was, Denny Hamlin won. Chase Briscoe, his Joe Gibbs Racing co-racer, he came in second, followed by 2 Hendricks racers, and then the 5th place finisher was Ty Gibbs, you make of Joe Gibbs Racing. Now, if you ever want to see a mini-me of Joe Gibbs, it's Ty Gibbs. That dude looks just like, he kind of looks like Ralphie from Christmas Story met up with Joe Gibbs. So it's really funny. But yeah, there's small rain delays that went on. There were a bunch of crashes at overtime. So it was a pretty exciting race. One of the cool things is before the race, Dover is huge when it comes to the military. If you've ever driven down Route 1, you said some gave all gave some gave all. It's amazing when you're driving by Dover Air Force Base, and then you see all the C-5 Galaxies, which are like the second largest airplanes.
My dad flew on a C-5. Those things are huge, and
oh my god,
loud.
Yeah, your dad's awesome for that. And so they flew a huge one over. You see them all the time up here. In fact, Dover is when when Air Force One does some routine training missions, they'll fly into Dover, and then they'll do their thing, and then they'll fly back out. Sometimes they just do training where the Air Force One will go down, it'll land, and then it'll retake off because they have to do all these training things just in case. But they're a huge flyby of this galaxy over. But more importantly, I had 2 friends. One's my positional manager. Her name's Kristen. She's a Gold Star family mother. She lost her son Joey. And that's what this has for. A few years ago in a training mission, he was a training accident, I should say. Sorry. Here in the States, so he passed away, and so she was able to go down there because they invite the Gold Star families of Delaware. There's also an organization called Honor and Remember, which actually did some advertising during the Stanley Cup playoffs, which is really nice. So a friend of mine also, her name is Kathy. Her older brother, Richard Bowman, he died in Cambodia in 1970 during the Vietnam War. And it's amazing. It still breaks their hearts to talk about it. I mean, 70. It was 4 years till I was born. But what Dover does down there is amazing. And what Kristen does, my positional boss, she works for Mission Barbecue, and she also is a community ambassador, such as myself. And she takes the care of Dover Air Force Base, which does the transfers over, the dignified transfers of any service member that died overseas. It could,
Okay.
most of the times it's an illness or an accident, but other times it is in combat. And she gets them free food, she comforts them because she's been there, she knows it. So we did a huge tour there last month. Very emotional. We went through the morgue, all the areas where they check everything. They actually have to put the caskets through metal detectors. It's a really huge process what they do down there. But it's great to see that Dover, the racetrack, they do a great job supporting the military. So it's awesome. Wish I got there, but I couldn't get there.
Very cool. Sarah did put in a comment that she hates Hamlin, and I figure, for Midnight Riders purposes now, along with the Hartford counter, we should start having a Sarah hate counter for whenever she hates something. So there we go. So there we go. So now you guys are both on there. Good stuff there for sure. We did also have the WNBA All-Star Game this weekend. Team Collier defeats Team Clark 151-131 in your typical NBA, WNBA All-Star Game where defense was secondary. Miss Collier did lead her team with 36 points. Alicia Gray added 18 as well. They were up by 13 after 20 at the half. Caitlin Clark did not play for her team as she's still nursing a groin injury. They were led by Kelsey Mitchell from the home team as well from the Fever. And then Kiki, I'm going to probably mispronounce her last name, Irfan from the DC Mystics had a very good showing with 17 points as well. But overall, I thought it was kind of, it was an entertaining game for folks to watch. I think they did a pretty decent job with the show part of it. It's still MLB. There's the MLB All-Star Game, and there's everybody else really. They're just heads above about being able to duplicate, like Midnight Rider always says, it's the easiest one to duplicate and have a result that matters. And these games, no one wants to get hurt. You kind of saw that, lots of offense. So if you like offense, it was your game. Anything on that on the All-Star Game, Scooter? You good?
Yeah, I forgot they had an All-Star Game. Because of I'm joking, of course. I knew they had an All-Star Game, but yeah, it was all the pregame hype of the T-shirts of the ladies.
Yes,
giving their opinion on what, and they probably, they definitely deserve more money. And I think that was a big deal for. I think that overshadowed the All-Star Game, of course, because that's what made all the news. It's okay if that overshadows it. If they're trying to make their point, maybe it all should help. They already got that was it an 11-year deal, $2.2 billion coming up, so they're going to get paid.
And I think Midnight Rider brought up a good point on this on Saturday or on Sunday's show when he talked about this a lot too. And it's like I get right now, the haters out there like, oh, they're losing money. What do they want to get paid? Zero. But you see the WNBA, to borrow a term from the great Shorzy, they're getting butts and seats, right? And ultimately, that's what matters. They're getting butts and seats in all these arenas. And if you get butts and seats, you're going to make money. They got the TV deal coming up, like you said. They're clearly not hurting. They're expanding into 3 other cities, right? Like the girls deserve to get paid. Now, are they going to get NBA money? I hope they know that they're not. But should they be getting more than what they are? I think everyone's in agreement that they definitely should. So hopefully that finds their way and they can get this thing done and they can get paid what they should be getting paid, which is definitely more than what they are on these, on what these rookie salaries are. I mean, I think some of these come in as rookies and they got more from their NIL deals in college than what they can make as a rookie in the professional league, which is crazy.
Now, there is something to be said about the losses that
right
they suffer.
Right.
Businesses don't do this. They don't lose in 30 years $250 million upwards to $1 billion and be like, yes, we're doing well. That doesn't happen in real business. And they owe a lot to the NBA for the NBA. I think they bankroll like 60 to 70% of everything that goes into there. But they got their deal, which is good. But $40 million in losses last year. At least they're fine. Like I said, they got their deal, and that's going to help. But there's been rumblings about the NBA ownership getting a little,
right.
When are we finally going to get $1 in return?
Right.
As opposed to losing. They were losing. This is how popular the WNBA is getting. They were losing $10 million a year, but they're so popular now they're losing $40 million a year.
Yeah, it kind of part of you what makes you wonder too, like what are they spending the money on too? You know, like I don't know,
I mean,
like
they're definitely not spending the money on salaries.
right, we know that. So
You
where's this
know,
money? Because and they're getting people, they're getting money, and I guess the whole thing is so whenever these buildings probably get their cut of whatever for the people getting in seats and stuff, and but I think when they get the TV deal money comes in, that's when they're going to start making money, and they're
yeah.
going to be on they're going to be on CBS, and when I think Amazon's picked them up, and the ratings are pretty decent, like because they're on in a good time. You really only have baseball going on right now. Ben adds in here too, like the expansion teams pay 200 million to start, like so you're going that money is coming, and I think that's true.
Well, these
Chip,
teams they just can't drain money though. They're going to get their
correct.
deal. They just can't
Yep.
drain money and expect. I mean, there have been many leagues before, not just for women's basketball, of course, all sorts of other leagues that failed because all they did was lose money. I mean, we
Yep.
saw that with the ABL. The ABL was there before the
Yeah.
WNBL, and
All
and
the
they
leagues that have tried to go up against the NFL, they've
yeah,
all had the same issues. So,
yeah.
Chip, a good comment. This is the problem where they're going wrong, just like the women's soccer team did, and trying to demand the same money as the men. There's no way they're going to get paid that much. They don't bring in that revenue. And then he says, I agree. Pay them what they can and get all that you can, but you can't stretch that far and be unrealistic. Yeah, I agree. I mean, like no one in WNBA should be expecting the max deals that you see in the NBA. But I think that I think that $1 to $5 million salary range, kind of somewhere in there, seems like a good landing spot to me. For these players that they should end up, being able to make, and the league should be able to, where maybe the top ladies make or in that $5 to $8 million range, and the really good players are somewhere in that $2 to $6 million range. I think somewhere in there is where these things are going to have to land, probably similar to like NHL contracts, in that sense, maybe a little bit less than what like the Connor McDavid and stuff like that are going to make obviously next year, but I mean that basic salary range I think could fit because they're going to have basically almost similar TV money to what the NHL makes.
Well, here's the thing also. And again, I'm sticking up for the players again because this doesn't have anything to do. Well, I mean, it does, and this is why they want more money. Is because right now they get 9% of the profits.
Yeah.
Okay. In the NBA, the players get 49.7
Right.
or something.
Yeah, it's all about the
It's a
profit
crap
sharing.
load of money, and so I mean, at least give them 20%.
Yep.
Yeah, I understand you got to start. You're not going to give them 50, but you should
Nope.
give them 20% because they're the reason you have a league.
Yep.
I mean,
We're
they're
in
the ones.
agreement on that. Agreement. I love it. British Open, Scotty Scheffler wins it with an impressive. I was not. When the correspondence on, I think he'll be on the show with them again tomorrow. We're talking about what's the winning score going to be. I don't think anyone had 17 under winning the British Open. Just
They had
crazy.
one over.
Yeah, just crazy how good the scores were. The weather did not play its typical factor into the British Open, and Scotty Scheffler basically runs away with it. The top four guys were all U.S. guys. Second was 13 under, but really at no point in time on Sunday was there ever really a feeling of like, uh-oh, here comes somebody, or uh-oh, he's falling back. It just really didn't have that. So now you start joining the conversation even more of Scotty's place with Tiger and Jack. And I think it's a good one. Where can they? How far can Scotty go now up this leaderboard as far as the greats of all time? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, what did they say? They said something like it's the exact same amount of days. This is crazy how this happened with like Ovechkin and Gretzky, but it's like the exact number of days from when Tiger Woods won his first major to his third that Scotty did the same
Yep.
thing in like the exact same number of days. I don't
Yep.
know how that works, which is insane, but it does. And Scotty Scheffler is amazing, and he just makes these shots, and he's totally he is. He goes there and goes, whatever. I'm just going to hit it and I'm going to win.
Yeah, he really does. A couple back comments here real quick. Joni says a 10% pay raise. Yeah, I think that's fair and reasonable.
Yeah.
I think that's a good one. I like that. And how can they pay that though? I'm not sure which one, Chip, are you talking about? My salaries or due in the increase in the profit share? Which one are you thinking on that side of it? And we'll clarify that part of it. But I kind of get your point. But I think the TV money is going to be the big part of the show me the money, as they used to say in Jerry Maguire. So all right, so real quick back to Scotty, yeah, I mean, he really dominated from Saturday on. Rory made his little kind of mini run on Saturday, but just didn't have enough. And
He
Scotty
was great on Saturday, Rory.
yeah,
Yeah, that was
yeah,
fun golf watching that.
yeah. He had that little run on Saturday, but just too little, too late. I think, unfortunately, in his case. So
He just sort of didn't get it going on Sunday. It just wasn't
nope.
going.
Nope. Not, and then again, it didn't help either. Nobody really fell back either, right? Like you just had, everyone was shooting 4, 5, 6 under. So like, if everyone above you is shooting 4, 5, 6 under, it's hard for you to make up that ground. Nobody really fell back to them either. And when nobody falls back, it's hard for you to do that.
There were three guys in the tournament who I found really interesting. Bryson DeChambeau, he was horrible. He was like the 140th golfer after round one. He finished 10th. And the reason he finished 10th, and he made the cut and he finished 10th, he shot 16 under par the last 3 rounds, which is unbelievable. Wow. And immediately Keegan Bradley put him on the Ryder Cup team.
Which is, that a performance like that will do that for you, right?
And Bryson's just great. I'd love to see it. Somehow they can figure out the lib thing going on. But Chris Gotterup, so he won the Scottish Open last week. And then he follows up with a 3rd place British Open. Not bad. Good job.
Not bad at all. I agree.
Li Hao Tong from China. How about that?
Where did he end up finishing?
He was in the final pairing with Scotty, and he tied 4th.
Tied 4th.
He was great.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing seemed to. I mean, remember all these guys finished in 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. If Scotty Scheffler didn't hit the 17 under, I mean, they're like if Scotty Scheffler was like normal, they're all battling for overtime on this thing for extra. Then it was interesting that Matt Fitzpatrick, Wyndham Clark, Rory McIlroy, Xander Schauffele, and Brian Harman, all major winners. They were all in the top 10. So they showed.
Yep.
That includes DeChambeau and Scheffler.
Chipper puts in here, needs another 10 major wins first. He's insanely good, but a long way to go before he's in that conversation with Tiger and Jack.
Yes,
probably so. But he's heading in the right direction, as we like to say. And Chip clarifies the salary of 3 to 8 or 8 million. Yeah, probably 8 is probably more like I'm talking like the Caitlin Clarks. The top of the top, I think could maybe get that. I think you're going to see probably that $1 to $4 million range for the really good players, and then your crazy goods of the WNBA. I could see maybe that $5 to $8 million range happening. Long term. I mean, especially like Indiana, like that Indiana is selling out every single game there for as long as Caitlin Clark is on that team. So we'll see. Who knows where that all ends up going. All right, real quick, a little fun. There were a couple of national anthems thanks to the Home Run Derby and the Major League All-Star Game. Heather Headley did the Home Run Derby. She was okay, nothing great. It's a little. Her range and pitch was a little off, so she got a 37. The Zach Brown Band, very good country music band, did the actual All-Star Game. I really liked what they did. They went a cappella, no instruments, no nothing. I do love a good a cappella anthem with a group of men or females. I just love it, and they did really good. Their tone was pretty decent. You can tell they're getting up there in age, so a few of the notes that they're having a little bit harder time hitting, but they do get a solid 42. So we're now up to 36 entries on the list. The average score is a 40.27, and so the Zach Brown Band does not quite get to the 43, where the 43 is still our top 10. So our top 10 has not changed now in a long time. We've not had anybody crack the top 10 in a while, but it was good to I did try to find the national anthem from the ladies All-Star Game, but I don't think ESPN showed it, or at least on ESPN Plus when I went back to try to find it because I couldn't watch the game live. They didn't put it on there. So if they did show it, I missed it. Sorry, guys. But at least 2 new entries on Jose Can You Sing. I know I've even got Ben Midnight Rider now. He watched the flag football championship, was giving me his personal scores on those. I was like, I don't know if flag football qualifies for this list or not. And he said he agreed with me. No, it didn't. But he's still. I got him rating anthems now, so it's catching on. Soon everyone's going to be doing it. All right. I do want to real quick. Yeah, we'll try to get this done. This is going to be our last summer road trip. It's kind of funny. We started off a little bit talk about the president of the United States, and one thing. My wife and I, we love the national parks. Our goal is to try to get to all of them, just like our baseball stadiums. We're at a third right now. We've been to a third of the national parks out there, and we just love them. I do want to remind folks, because especially now there have been cuts made to the national park staff. Be patient if you're going during peak season, because a lot of these parks where they used to be able to reserve what time you went in, which would keep the crowds at least kind of focused. A lot of the bigger parks, they've taken away that system, and it's basically back to a free-for-all. So just remember that, especially during peak seasons, the busy ones are going to be just that. They're going to be busy. So make sure you try to plan ahead as far as lodging. One thing, this is a free plug, we use it when we go to these parks, the Guide Along app. It is great on the national park journeys. Like, you download the app, you go through, you put in, and it actually works. It works off of your cell service. It doesn't work off of your Wi-Fi. So you download it, and as you're going through and you're getting close to these parks, they'll start coming on and giving you different stuff about the history of the park, but then also telling you, hey, coming up on your right is going to be this. If you got time, you should stop. Or he'll be honest with you, say, if you're pressed for time, this is one that you can skip. Like, it's great. We use it whenever we go to any of these national parks, because my wife and I are not in the greatest shape to be hiking through the national parks. So we like to do what we call the drive-through of the parks, and we'll get through different areas of the parks that we can drive through easily, park, do maybe a small little hike, but nothing crazy good. Joni agrees with me that the guy did well in Georgia, which is I assume for the All-Star game. Yeah, the Zach Brown band did really well. I did like their anthem for sure.
He makes wine. He makes wine, Zach Brown.
Yeah. Yeah, they do now, don't they? They're venturing on to everything. So with that being said, do you have a top 5 national park? Now, these, again, when we do this, just like the baseball stadiums we did last week, these are only national parks that I've been to. So, Scooter, what's your 5?
These are 5 national parks. Okay, some can be a national wildlife refuge, and some can be a military battlefield. So they are all the same thing. Yeah. Okay, no particular order. Loxahatchee National Wildlife Reserve in Palm Beach County, Florida.
Okay.
Ooh. So that extends from like West Palm Beach area all the way to Lake Okeechobee up north, and then that's sort of like the northeastern portion of the Everglades. So it's beautiful out there. It's hot. A lot of gators, which is awesome to see. So many cranes and birds, and the wildlife is amazing out there.
I like that one. 2,
Gettysburg National Military Park, probably the preeminent battlefield park you can go to.
Agree.
You can drive. It's huge. You can drive all over the place. You can go to different monuments, little battles. You can walk into certain parts. It's really crazy if you've never studied the Battle of Gettysburg. There's so many little parts of the battle where people were killing each other left and right, all types of day for 3 straight days. So it's a horrible 50,000 casualties died there. Well, not died, but casualties died or were injured. If you look at some of these pictures of the amputations, they had amputation hills that were like 10 to 12 feet high.
Crazy.
So next up, the Manassas National Battlefield for first and second battle. The first battle, which actually happened 164 years ago today. So that occurred a long time ago, of course. And the first battle was the first major battle of the Civil War. You had all these Union people coming in they were up on Chantilly Heights. They were going to watch this fun battle, and then they got run off because the Confederates did a surprise upset and won the day. That was a tough one there, but a lot of you people that are close there, that's a great battlefield to visit within like 20 minutes, 30 minutes outside of DC. Hawaii Volcanoes National Park in Kona, Kailua, Hawaii, the Big Island.
I've not been to that one.
Yeah, that place is awesome. I want to go back. It's been a while, but that's to the point where you're looking up from the water, and you can't see the top of the volcanoes just because the way that the mist is up there. So talk about paradise. And last but not in the least, the Nationals Park, the home of the Washington Nationals, where you can watch some okay baseball.
Some okay baseball. I think you're being generous. Ben says I love good bits, so I appreciate that, Midnight Rider. So most of mine are going to be actual national parks for my top 5, and it's all funny because our first one that we actually started with was Shenandoah National Park, which for those in the DC area, a very easy drive to get to go along the Blue Ridge Parkway, which I strongly recommend. It's beautiful. The mountains are great there, but then it's funny. We started there. And then when you go out to the mountains of the west, and then like when my wife and I, we came back through the east, and we decided, hey, let's go back through the Shenandoahs again just for fun. Mm-hmm. And then when you go out to the mountains of the west, and then you go through the Shenandoahs, you're kind of like, they're okay. Like my view of the Shenandoah Mountain Valley from when I went the first time to compare it to the second time is unfortunately a lot lower. And again, all of the national parks I've been to are great. Would I go back to any one of them in a heartbeat? Yes. Probably the only one I wouldn't is Indiana Dunes. It just didn't do it for me. But any of the other ones that I've been to, I would go back to in a heartbeat. But my number five is the Rocky Mountains. And really, when I go 5 through 1, these are really tough. The Rocky Mountains, they're just like when my wife and we drove through one time. It's the only area where, like during May, like we're flying into Denver. The temps in Denver's are in the 60s and 70s. We go through the mountains, right? And you're going through, and it's snowing, and it's 30. You feel like a 40-degree temperature drop, and then you get back out of the mountains, and you're over on the other side, and it's 80 degrees. Like it's crazy. They're beautiful. Dream Lake is an amazing area that's inside the Rocky Mountain National Park. But you don't just have to go to the Rocky Mountain National Park to enjoy the Rockies. It's such a big mountain range that you can really see so much of it, where you can just have views like this, where you've got snow and then nothing. Like it's just crazy. I can't recommend the Rockies enough. Number 4 is Grand Tetons, which another amazing mountain range, very close to Yellowstone. So usually if you do Grand Tetons, you can do Yellowstone in the same trip, because they are literally like about 20 miles through each other. And you got this really neat drive up and down a river to get from Grand Tetons up to Yellowstone. So that's my number 4. Number 3 is Glacier National Park. This again is up in Montana. This is one. It's kind of it's right up there with Banff on the Canadian side of the same mountain range, which I do want to get to Banff one day. This is these lakes up here. I just have dreams one day of being able to take my skates and skating on one of these bad boys. I just want to do it so bad. So one of these, but the only problem is a lot of these roads are closed during winter, so getting to these areas are not very easy when it be that time frame. But it's just a stunning national park with amazing mountains and the road to the sun that you can actually ride and go through the mountain range. Just really, really good. Number 2 is Yellowstone. My recommendation for anyone that wants to go to Yellowstone is you need at minimum 4 days for Yellowstone. There's 4 quadrants of the park. And basically, each one is kind of a corner, and each one presents something different. You got the one with the springs. You have the area with the guy with the gazers, and you got of course where Old Faithful is, and then you have the wildlife that's there. Just everything. There's so many unique things, and they got an area with waterfalls. Like it's just so unique. But you really need a day to be able to explore everything in each quadrant of Yellowstone. So that's my recommendation to anyone. If you got an interest in Yellowstone, give yourself 4 days at minimum.
What's up with all the crazy people that go there? They're trying to have relationships with bison and shit.
It's very simple. People are morons. I mean, and it's not like there's not signs.
To Buffalo, but why don't you go pet it?
Or like they think that they can get real close to get this picture, and you don't even need that. Like there's plenty of times where you'll be driving along the road and they're right there by the road. You don't have to get out of your car to get a great picture of them. But yeah, people, it's the same thing. Like there's actually the sign for like the springs, because if people fall into these springs, like it doesn't take much for your whole entire body to disintegrate. Like, so there are these walk paths that go up and along there, and there's the signs in like 6 different languages of do not go off it. And there's actually talk about, and they've not yet figured out if the buffalo know, because they're pretty familiar with this whole entire area, where they'll go into these things simply to pass away. And there's a lot of thought of it that they just know that their time is up, and they almost just go in there on their own onto some of these things. So it's just, Yellowstone's just amazing. I can't say enough good things about Yellowstone. So it's really close. Like it's almost kind of like this would be 1B, but 1A is the Grand Canyon. I've just never seen anything more spectacular as far as the views. Especially we did the lower rim. I've not done the upper rim, but the lower rim just offers these amazing views, especially at sunset. I can't recommend it enough. If you ever get out to that Arizona area, the Grand Canyon is a must see for sure. So that's my number 1. That's our summer road trip for this year. We did the baseball stadiums before, and then we did, what was the first one? I don't remember what I did the first time. What did I do the first time?
See,
It sucks getting old. It does suck. And then, of course, so now we finish up with the national parks. I was going to do one more road trip segment, but it's kind of crazy to think we're getting 40 days away from football. So we're going to start getting into some fun football segments starting next week. So this will be the last part of the summer road trip series for this year. Womp womp. All right, we got a few more minutes. We don't really have a lot of hockey talk to get into, but the NHL did release their schedule. So I did want to just real quick get into that. These are just some of the big names. October 7th is the start of the season with 3 games. Florida raising the banner against Chicago, Pittsburgh and the Rangers, Colorado and the Kings play. There are 2 dates that all 32 teams will play. That's on October 11th and 28th. Nashville and Pittsburgh this year are the 2 teams that will play in the International Series. That's going to be in Stockholm, Sweden, November 14th and 16th. The defending Cup champions meet on November 22nd and March 19th in Florida, and then in Edmonton. The Winter Classic this year is January 2nd. The Rangers versus Florida, and a quick correction from last week because Scooter, you were actually right. They are playing where the Marlins played. I thought it was where the Dolphins were going to be playing, so it is actually there. So I'm going to assume that they're going to have to keep that they would have the dome open because or else it's not really an outdoor game if they close it, right? Unless the weather's just so bad, then I guess they got no choice. But so that's where that one is.
I hope that game isn't at like 3:30 in the afternoon.
Right. Well, no, I'm sure those are going to be 8 o'clock. Those are going to have to be 8 o'clock start times to have it work. Jonathan Toews returns to Chicago for the first time with Winnipeg on January 19th. 4 days later, Mitch Marner will make his return to Toronto for Vegas. Then you'll have the Stadium Series game February 1st in Tampa, which is Boston versus Tampa. And then the big break, the Olympic break, is from February 5th to 20 through the 25th for the Winter Olympics, which this year the NHL is participating in. We'll get more into that as that gets obviously way closer, but we got a lot of time for that. So that's really all that I wanted to give out for this one. It's been kind of a quiet week as far as any player moves goes, but these are kind of the highlights of the schedule. I meant to look up when Washington plays, and then I forgot. I think their first game is on the road, if I remember right, but I could be wrong.
They're at home against the Bruins on October 7th.
Bruins. That's it. Okay. So, and that's when most of the team starts, either October 7th, 8th, or 9th, around there. So it's a condensed schedule. I think most teams are going to be playing 14 to 15 different, back-to-back nights to try to make up for the Olympic break. But it's going to go a little bit because of that Olympic break as well. So we'll see how it goes as it gets closer, and we'll start as same thing when this gets a little bit closer towards probably September. We'll start doing what teams got better, what teams got worse, because we'll have a better idea where these rosters are going to come into play, because there's still teams that have to make moves. Florida is still over the cap. Dallas is barely under the cap, and they've got 5 roster spots still to fill themselves. So there's still going to be way more moves to come on this end of it. So any thoughts on the schedule or anything there, Scooter?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm looking forward to that Winter Classic. That should be kind of cool at the Lone Depot Park, the home of the Orange Bowl. 5 Super Bowls were played there. Now there's going to be a hockey game played there, so that's kind of cool. Joe Namath won there. Joe Namath. And both of those 70s Steelers and Cowboy games were played there, too. So that's kind of cool. The Capitals in October, they have 11 games, 7 are at home. So it's a good start for the Caps. And at the end, in April, 5 of the 7 games are away. So, it could be a tough draw. And if Pittsburgh is semi-good at all, they have to play a home and home against them the last weekend of the series in the season, and they finish off at Columbus away.
Yeah, the Canes have a brutal schedule because, their October is always on the road because they always start off, they get 1 or 2 home games, then the North Carolina State Fair comes into town, and then that's when they do their West Coast road trip. So they always start off then with 7 games on the road. I think they have like only 4 of their first 15 games are at home. Then they've got a real big chunk of home games in the middle of it, and then they end with 6 of their last 8 games on the road. So it's a very weird schedule that they have too this year.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see it. I've eyeballed a couple of dates. I think the Canes play Washington on a Saturday, maybe some point in time that I was eyeballing, but some of that will depend on when the grandson comes and what we may or may not be able to do. So we'll see how that all plays off there. So yeah, so down the road here next week we will start getting some football stuff, because it's crazy to think August 30th will be our first college football game when Texas plays Ohio State, and that weekend kind of others get going too. We're going to get more into the baseball stuff too. We'll be 3 days away from the trade deadline then, so that's going to be some good stuff coming up. We'll start having some fun with football. I know the Pittsburgh Steelers released a jersey today. Maybe we'll do a best jerseys and ugliest NFL jerseys in the upcoming weeks for some fun with that as we get ready for that. And of course, we'll get ready for fantasy football season too, because it's getting closer and closer to the draft time for all the leagues, including Scooter and my league. We'll get into some of that later as well. I do want to real quickly, and I talked about this in our little promo I did this morning, but we hit one hot button topic this morning, and I do want to give a shout out here, because starting here in about 50 minutes now will be Coach Devon, and he's going to have on Coach Dre Cates, the assistant football coach from the Syracuse University, and they're going to get into the subject of NILs and college sports, and I think that's going to be a really good subject too, because I know we've kind of grazed that subject on different shows on Sideline Junkies about the talk of the NIL. I think it'll be really interesting to get the perspective from a coach that's having to deal with it, and get some insights there. He's also going to have hold on here, I just hit the wrong button, Coach Brendan Garrett, which is the Laurel High School track coach, on as well, and then head coach of the Sarasville football team, Mark Wilson. So he's going to have 3 different coaches on, but I'm really looking forward to that talk with Dre Cates, and especially getting into some of this NIL stuff. So again, the Sideline Junkies has you covered just about everywhere. We've got a great lineup here for you. Basically we've got a show now every day except for Friday. So, and who knows what will be coming down the pike from us. So I want to thank everyone in their comments, that especially for the early subjects. That was great to have. Love it. Let me see here. Oh, I like this idea. Chipper, Scooter, we could do a fantasy football mock draft show. I like that idea. I'm thinking we can find some time for that for sure. I love it. So Scooter, any last thoughts before we wrap it up for today?
No, I'm all jacked up now about that fantasy football one we're going to do. Let's do it.
I agree. It's kind of funny. I was originally thinking about actually having our draft be on due during the show, because we're looking at doing it on a Monday night, but then Chuck can't do the Monday now, so we're looking like we're going to be on a Tuesday now. So womp womp. So there goes
Chuck
the idea.
Wagon, man.
I know, I tell you, darn it. So
They
hopefully,
named him after dog food.
but so maybe the mock football draft show could be good. We could use our league as that example if we want. We can bring up some league history and have some fun with that. Maybe get a couple of the other guys on. So we'll see if we can do that for sure. So great show. That's another week here. I appreciate everyone's comments again. It was good stuff. Scooter, any last thoughts before we wrap her up?
No, let's have a great week. Stay safe out there, of course.
I agree with that. And as I always say, make sure you tell your loved ones that you love them. Make sure you give them a hug, because tomorrow is not guaranteed. But hopefully you will be back with us on the next show and on any of the upcoming shows that the guys have. So until then, everyone, take care, be healthy, and we will see you around. Wait, come on, Scott. You got to there you go. Do your thing. There you go. There we go.